mute.
Mark, you're on mute, bud.
You're on mute. Yeah.
Oh
We're all
my
on mute.
God.
Then,
I tell you what, you didn't hear any of that, but that intro was the most fluent I've ever sounded. And what a shame. Anyway, welcome back to the Weekly Armchair. Hello, boys and girls. Oh, man, bit of a disappointment today, wasn't it? And not for the obvious reasons, obviously losing 3 points. A bit of a couple of issues, obviously, in defence that we certainly had. I think certainly for the first goal, particularly in the second, actually, as well. You know, everyone kind of switched off. Yeah, disappointing in the end. But I thought on the whole, we were pretty good, actually. I thought we were very, winning the balls high again, pressing very well. Probably should have scored a couple more. Really unfortunate with two offsides, of course. I know Rashford's slightly less, but that other one, that was just so frustrating, wasn't it? But the momentum obviously carried him through. Nathan, obviously, Stu, Mark, and Freddie, thank you, boys, very much for joining me on 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, giving up your time. Really appreciate that. Nathan, over to you first. How you feeling, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. It's one of those where you could sort of see it coming after the first half. You know, the Rashford goal was quite clearly offside, but, the little dink with the back heel was quite nice to watch, and you did think he was having quite a good game. And yeah, just the second goal was just a complete, what is that moment? Like, how is that going to go against us? But yeah, it's one of those things. Brighton have got a really good record in August. They've got one of the highest points taken in August for the first sort of since they've been in the Premier League. So you can't really blame them at home, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely right. And yeah, we got to remember, I think, obviously it's disappointing when you get to the end of the game, but this was Brighton on the back of a massive win, new manager, always in good form, and particularly around August, as you say, Nathan. So, maybe we should have won it, but, we narrowly lost, and hopefully that will give us a kick up the arse for next time. Stu, how are you feeling?
Yeah, do you know what? I've been trying to think. I've been at the in-laws this afternoon, so it's never a good thing, is it? But I've been trying to think of a few ways of describing the game and how I'm feeling, and I'm not quite landed on anything yet. Apart from it's probably the most frustrating game of football I've seen in a long, long time. When you look at the way that we started the game, the way that we kind of lacked any kind of fluidity throughout the game, the way that we slowed the game down in parts when we were losing the game, the way that we never had the energy that we needed to beat Brighton. And yet, to mask it all and make it even worse, I didn't rate Brighton at all today. I just didn't see anything that you could be upset about, you could be afraid about. I didn't see the Brighton of last season, for sure. I thought they lacked a lot of energy, a lot of pace, in their attacking movements. Thought they defended quite well, but then they looked like they were going to have one of those games where they were going to defend quite well. Steele in goal. Fuck me, man, you got to close that idiot down. I mean, you can't allow him to play out from the back. You can't allow him. I don't think he gave the ball away once from, manoeuvring out from the back. I'm not saying he's great, because I don't think that he is, but you've got to do something to stop that. And this is what frustrates me with our players in particular. Their overall assessment of the game as it evolves is just lacking completely. We don't seem to understand what's happening and deal with it. And yeah, I'm sure when you dive into it, Mark, we'll go into the goals and we'll go into the mishaps. But overall, hugely, hugely frustrating, and yeah, very, very, very difficult to really sum up, I think.
Yeah, it is a difficult one, isn't it? I think we just fine margins. I think I really believe that fine margins today. 2 times caught off in a bit of a lapse, 2 goals that could have been. Do you know what I mean? We will talk about that in more detail, as you say, and it's just one of those. I just think that it's not. I've seen a lot of sort of negativity already today on Rashford and Ahmad and Ten Hag, and it's like, come on, man, get a grip. It's the second game. It's against a good informed team. They're at home. All these things that I've explained earlier. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Okay. Anyway, Mark, I don't believe I've been on a show with you before, buddy. So great to have you on with me. Welcome to the review. And yeah, how are you feeling?
I'm all right. Like the lads are saying, like we're 2 games. You can hear me first and foremost, yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry, lads.
Loud and clear.
Lovely. I think like I'm not gonna start throwing the cat amongst the pigeons as per se. Like second game into the season. I thought we were relatively subdued though. It's kind of hopefully it's not nothing to preempt going forward. I just think that obviously, based on the fact that we'd came away with 3 points last week versus Fulham, I was just quite frankly, when I was on the pod last night, I was nearly expecting the same. Now again, obviously that's just me probably being fickle-minded. Brighton, I thought were worthy of the 3 points today. I know people won't agree with me, but I just thought they were the better team as a whole. They just played better today. Particularly like the likes of Billy Gilmore, I just thought he had a very good game, and he's one of the players that, ironically, they're looking to offload. But I just think again, they set up with a game plan versus ours, which was kind of lackluster. Again, I just think there wasn't enough progression going forward. So I hope there's a change over the coming weeks. Like we've Liverpool at home next weekend. So yeah, I'm just like that. Two games in, I'm not gonna be too down over it, but I just hope and expect to see better over the coming weeks, really.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying. I've just got to run downstairs very quickly, so I'm going to let Stu take over just for 2 minutes. And Freddie, I want you to come in and talk about how you're feeling, my good man.
Yeah, firstly, good evening, everyone. I'm actually feeling a bit more optimistic. I think there's definitely more positives to take away than negatives. I think we, contrary to what Marcus mentioned, I actually think we deserve to win the game. And I think it was just so frustrating. It didn't look like we were going to win at all, especially after that second goal was disallowed. But I think we controlled the game in large parts, certainly in the first half. And it was just a freak second goal that didn't win us the game. And I'm adamant that if that goal did go in, we would have seen out the game sufficiently. So ultimately it was 2 very poor defensive errors that cost us today, and I'm sure we'll diagnose those as the stream goes on. But there's a lot of positives to take away for me, and I think there's just been a huge overreaction directed towards some certain players, the manager, and I think we just need to take a step back, put things into perspective. It is only the second game of the season. We do have a lot more injuries relative to certainly the teams we're playing and our competitors, but we're on the ascendancy. We're starting to see patterns of play that didn't exist last season. Certain players have stepped up, the likes of Casemiro. I think he's certainly performing much better than last season, which isn't difficult, most may argue, but that's a positive. And yeah, hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 signings through the door in the next week, and that's only going to solidify the team. But we do need to improve before next weekend. Liverpool, the old enemy. We need to step up in certain areas, otherwise that could be a worrying game, as we've seen in the past. But very, very optimistic my side.
See, falling for this mute thing, falling for Mark. Oh no, Jesus, crikey, getting bad. Look, it's a fair assessment by pretty much everybody, I think, with regards to the way that we played. So let's have a look at the way that we played, and let's look at where we felt we weren't particularly good in the game and where we could certainly improve on the game. So, Nath, we'll start with you. I mentioned in my kind of opening statement, we were slow in patches. Would you put that down to? Do you put that down to early season fatigue? Before anybody jumps on me, if you play football, you'll know what I mean by early season fatigue. A lot of people won't, but if you know what I'm talking about, you'll get it, you'll understand it. Or do you just think it's the way that Ten Hag and Hake in particular want us to play? They want us to play a more slow, methodical build-up. To try and not eke our way into the opposition half per se, but be a bit more smoother when we're in there.
I think it seems like, because obviously last season we were sort of desperate to see how they want the team to play. We didn't really see a format. We didn't really see a connection like created over the course of the season. You can sort of see now this might be like the way that Ten Hag and the new coaching sort of team behind him are looking to play. It doesn't really matter to me if we're slow in patches and sort of like, it just comes down to the fact that I do think, pre-season fatigue has got something to do with it. We've not started the season with the players that we were hoping to. We've still got a number of injuries, especially to, Lenny Euro and the other striker, Rasmus Højlund, that we've signed. Højlund as well. It's not a great start, but it's a case of, there seems to be a pattern that they want to play, and you can sort of see that growing into it. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked today because I just think defensively let us down today. I think that's where it comes down to. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's a case of they're implementing this way to play, and it is working in some patches, but yeah, it's just a case of defensively for me. We lost it at the back on those two occasions, especially the Welbeck goal for me, and even worse at the end.
Yeah, I mean, look, anyone could see he was going to float that ball into the back stick.
It was coming. You could see it from a mile away.
You didn't need to be a rocket scientist to work that one out. Mark, I was just talking about our slow build-up playing patches. What did you make of our overall play in terms of speed, in terms of pass accuracy, in terms of our use on the ball?
See, listen, I might be seeing things differently to you, Stu. I thought on the whole, we were pretty good today. I didn't think Brighton were really given too much, and I think that we were closing down very, very quickly. And there was a period of at least 20 minutes, particularly in the second half, where even the commentators mentioned it, that Brighton were really struggling to play out from the back. And I thought we were good, and I think we've seen that in pre-season and these two games. What I'd like to take away from it, actually, is I do feel at the moment, more so than last year, we look more of a cohesive unit, more of a team. We're missing some key players at the moment. And I think sometimes, I even said in the chat a few times, building up from the back, and when they were coming at us on a couple of occasions, that the pace of getting back and switching it to the other side and getting forward, and obviously the final pass wasn't good, or maybe the opportunity wasn't on target or whatever, I thought we were really good. Now maybe this is me being sort of optimistic, maybe this is me being more positive. It was fine margins today, and I really appreciated what I did see on a few occasions, not for the full 90. I know there were issues, I know there were defensive errors. Again, De Ligt comes on, hasn't built up a relationship yet, haven't built up with three players, not just your other partner at the back. And those kind of things are going to be seen on some occasions. But, at times we were slow, but there were times and moments that I was really pleased with. And, if we keep playing like that every game, I think we're going to be quite difficult to break down. And those relationships will become better, and we will have our big players back in Rasmus and, a couple of others. And I really feel like we can build upon this, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. No, totally agree. Mark, what was you got a fan in the channel, in the chat bollocks, saying your analysis last night was top draw. So we're going to put you on the spot now, fella, and give us your expert analysis on the game today.
It was probably very subdued, considering I was in work by the time I was doing the pod last night. I don't know how I actually managed to spin that one, because my manager was in front of me being like, what's going on? But anyway, I thought today, like, there was obviously positives. I understand what the lads are saying. There's positives in regards to, I felt, ball retention, particularly from the defensive unit that we had today, particularly in the first half. However, I just think from an attacking perspective, we just didn't create enough chances, I don't think. And like that, again, you'd have Bruno up there. He didn't have his best of games today, and Mount obviously playing just off him until he got whipped off half time. I just didn't think that we created enough going forward, like I'd said. However, there is obviously positives to take, particularly obviously with the work rate from the lads between Rashford, obviously Bruno, Mountain behind, and obviously Adamad playing as well. I know the lads are going to spin and be like, oh well, look, there's a lot of negatives going on. You'll have gobshites going on about Ten Hag losing his job, etc., coming from fickle-minded fans. I suppose my own negativity would just stem from, I know how well the players, particularly from an attacking quartet, can play, and they just didn't show up today, realistically. People can say, well, Ahmad got his goal. And don't get me wrong, I just didn't think he should have played based on obviously what had happened to him personally. obviously delighted he scored today, but if we want to take that out of it, like he didn't play particularly well in general. But again, as well as that, you can link what happened on personally going into that as well. Rashford, I know people that obviously probably start getting on me back considering I've just shown nothing but negativity towards him. First and foremost, prior to the season starting, I want Marcus Rashford to stay at Manchester United and produce absolute quality, in which we're all aware that he can do so. I suppose I'm too inclined to, it's nearly like I have an emotional aspect towards him, because first and foremost, it's like he dragged us through games 2 seasons ago and like hitting numbers that he hadn't, they were unprecedented in regard to what he'd shown previously. And I just want that Marcus Rashford back, who we all know and love, versus someone who at times doesn't look like he wants to be there. That's where the frustrating element from myself comes from, hence the negativity. But like as a whole, obviously we're going to improve. There's no doubt about it. Particularly, like I said, from an attacking standpoint, considering we have, Xerxes only after coming into the club. Obviously, you have Hoyland out injured for the short period of time, hopefully. And there'll be more cohesion between that. Garnacho still to come in the sense of he didn't start the game, and Ahmad will just improve. Literally, the more time I feel that he's been given, he will improve dramatically. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the coming months will show from Manchester United.
And this is one thing I want to say, actually, Stu, is this is where it's fine margins for me today, because if Xerxes wasn't running in like he was, and obviously the momentum took him there, Garnacho's goal would have gone in, and it would have been a totally different ending to the game, I feel. And do you know what I mean? I was gutted by that. And I know it's the letter of the law and all this, but you just... Even I was with my granddad watching it, and he said, yeah, but if it was down the other end, you'd be saying, I was just like, well, maybe. He's probably right. But at the same time, I just feel that if something's already going on target and it literally is momentum, how can you call that, man? It's not. It's about the clear and obvious, not that kind of thing. But anyway, that's another story.
Here's the irony on that, though, Mark. And you're absolutely right, by the way. And to the letter of the law, it was a great shout by McCoist, because I didn't pick it up at all, actually, as it was a brilliant shout by McCoy's. But what's interesting enough, though, we've been screaming and crying out for a centre forward, a number 9, to be exactly where Xerxes was. That's what we've been talking about, exactly where he was. And the momentum, when he went to try and get across the ball, took him into Garnacho. Now, you could argue, and I'm sorry, people are going to have a pop at me now, but you could argue Garnacho should have seen exactly what was unfolding in front of him, and he should have scooped the ball over Xerxes and into the net that way, because Steele was floundering. But then I'm not on the pitch, and it's a split-second decision he's got to make, hasn't he? Yeah, what I was really impressed with is Xerxes' face. He knew straight away what happened. He just couldn't get out of the way, and it's just one of those things. Incidentally, if it come off Xerxes' knee and he's behind the line, we would have scored. So it is really fine margin. It was good to see. Freddie, great to see you again, pal. Been a while.
He should have been quicker, shouldn't he? Should have been running faster.
Too right. He was too slow, too cumbersome on that one. But as I say, I'll blame Garnacho, because if it was me, Mark, I would have scooped it over. No problem. I'd have put a bit of backspin on it, watched it fly over Xerxes' head, drop in the goal, peeled away. Thank you very much.
Like what you said, Shudo, we can be over cynical there, because realistically that's a split-second decision, and you're not thinking of anything other than hitting the target, considering there's nobody there. Yeah, and that's just an absolute freak incident. That's exactly what that is.
It is as freak as it goes, but I've got to point this out, guys, and I apologise, but he was looking right across the goal, so he knew what was happening and unfolding in front of him. You got to be rude. Now, I've got to say this: Rude would have buried it. Xerxes or not, Rude would have buried it. But the kid's young. Maybe I'm a bit overcritical, but that's me. Freddie, good to see you again. Anyway, pal, what was your thoughts on the game overall, and what would you have done a little bit different if you were Ten Hag today? What would you have done a little bit different?
Yeah, good cheese too, Stu, and I believe you. But it's easy to knock it in when you're playing walking football for your local team. So
hey, no, I don't play walking. I've got my Zimmer phone coming out now.
You've got. I was going to say, Stu, you've got your 2 legs and your 2 your 4 frames as well. So
you don't know, Freddie. Right. I've been made skipper for the mighty Tipton Town this year.
How long have I been gone for? Jesus Christ!
Yeah, you'd want me.
It must be short.
They must be fucking
84
desperate.
years.
Who bought me a fucking skipper? I've never paid attention to my skipper ever. This is fucking whatever.
So how did the game go? So I think the first half we controlled predominantly. I don't think Brighton were great today. I think Matoma, for me, one of their most dangerous player, pretty anonymous all game.
He was, yeah.
And Minte, even he's had a great start to the season, played really well against Everton. Didn't do much, to be honest. Had a few moments, but look, they sold Pascal Gross. Ultimately, that's one of their jinx is gone. But Danny Welbeck, until he goes, we're always going to struggle against Brighton. He just seems to love scoring against us. But look, I think we were very good playing out from the back, and that's something that we tried to do last season. And I think there's been huge strides in that this season. Some of the sort of from Onana to attack without them touching the ball, that happened quite a few times. So from that aspect, it was good. There were quite a few elements where we were just passing it sideways and back to the keeper, and we were retaining possession, but nothing was happening. So I think we could have done better in creating chances and moving the ball forward. I'd like the team to go a bit more direct. I think when Garnacho came on, they were more direct. I noticed our long passes, there were more long passes, and that ultimately sort of led to a couple of chances in the second half. But there's no plan B really at the minute. They're sticking with plan A, and if that's not working, they're just sticking with it. And there's, it's like a brick wall. But the problem that I've got, and I put this down to injuries, is there is no focal point. I don't think Bruno and Mount can operate in the same team. Although the pressing is looking very good, certainly for Mount and Bruno, he's got support from Mount. When I think last season he'd just been doing it on his own. There's no one ahead of them, and they both occupy similar spaces. I know they kind of rotated in terms of Bruno drops Mount within overlap, but we need a striker, whether that's Højlund or Xerxes from the off, and I think we'll just see a completely different United once we have that structure in place. That then questions the balance of the midfield. If you play Mount, do you drop Mainu or Casemiro? I don't know. So there's a lot of questions yet. I just think that once we get our left back in the team fit, once we get Højlund and Xerxes fit, possibly De Ligt in for Maguire starting, if that is the plan, that's when we're going to see what Ten Hag actually wants to implement. And that team's going to need time, and hopefully we don't get any injuries. But look, there's been big improvements technically on the ball. I think today we lost the game due to two big defensive errors and a freak decision with the offside, which unfortunately is the letter of the law. It's a bad law in that circumstance, but it's a rarity that it happens. So I think we're on the ascendancy, like I mentioned earlier. Once we get some players back, I expect us to really kick off and hopefully challenge for top four.
Yep, no, totally agree with that, Freddie. Brilliantly put, as always. Let's start looking at the first goal. Obviously, Maguire's been lambasted for it. Although, to be brutally honest with you, Mazzari was speaking and was communicating to Maguire. Maguire was completely the wrong side. When you're a central defender and you're looking at your goal, you've always got a problem.
In front.
Yeah, because you just don't know where the player is because you haven't got eyes in the back of your head. Interestingly enough, though, I was quite disappointed with Martinez's position at the back stick as well. So when the ball first come across, Maguire didn't really make that attempt to cut it out. The ball goes right the way across, and Matoma picks it up, whips it back in. Maguire has another go, but the pace that Welbeck came in and the length, if you actually look at it in slow motion from kind of behind the goal, he really had to stretch for that ball. Did old Welbeck? It wasn't an easy tap in that it looked initially. And Martinez, for once, was actually caught flat-footed between Minte and Welbeck, which was a bit of a surprise to me. But okay, let's go with the narrative then, that it was Maguire's fault. What was your thoughts on that, Nathan? What could have Maguire done differently, or should have done differently?
Well, it's the fine margins thing again, isn't it? He was about 1.5 inches, 2 inches with his foot from getting his foot on the ball, just to get it out of take the momentum off it at all. But no, it's just a case of it was just one moment where he's not looking in the right positions. He's not looking at his back stick. He's not looking at his front stick. He's focusing so much on the ball. He's not looking at the players around him. And you could quite clearly, it's like the second goal. We could quite clearly see it was all going to happen exactly the same as the first. You knew that ball was coming into the middle. Excuse me. And you could see that there was space for Welbeck to make that run. So I wouldn't say it was all Maguire's fault, but it was literally just 2-3 inches at all just to get his foot on that ball, just to stop the momentum on it and even kick it out for a corner. But yeah, you could see from both angles, Martinez was sort of caught flat-footed, like you said, wasn't really clued out on the play that was in front and behind him. But yeah, it's just fine margins again. We keep mentioning it, but it is, and it's those fine margins that are going to cost us. You know, Freddie mentioned, and hopefully that we're going to be challenging for the top four with the sort of fine margins and errors that we're making in this game, and a little bit in the Fulham game. We weren't obviously convincing in the Fulham game either, but you could see that we may struggle in those positions, especially. But you know, we're not going to jump on the narrative that Maguire needs to be, you know, benched or sold or sacked or anything stupid like that, because he had a really good season last year. He's had a summer off with injury, and you know, he's had a bit of pre-season. I've still got a bit of faith in him. I was one of the advocates to say sell him, but you know, with the injuries we've got now, he is solid at the back when he wants to be. It's just one of those moments he just sort of switched off and just 2 or 3 inches away from clearing that ball out.
I think we should have never got to that point, to be honest with you, Stu. I feel like
it shouldn't have. Yeah,
I feel like when the cross went in, Matsuri probably should have shown him onto his weaker foot. That might have helped, been a bit stronger at that point. You know, it was a little bit kind of pinball-y kind of initially, and it shouldn't have ever come back into the box. But I think, as you say, Martinez, I didn't really pay attention to him, and honestly, but as you say, he's at the back post, probably not in the right position. But
not many people saw it. Not many people. He was caught flat-footed. It doesn't happen with Martinez too often, but it has happened in the past. He was just caught flat-footed, so it's just one of those. Mark, Hannah, what was your thoughts on Maguire and that particular passage of play?
I thought, like, you know, I think because it's Harry Maguire, we're going to be cynical. I think every Manchester United fan's going to be cynical in the sense that we thought that I personally thought he should have dealt with perhaps the first ball that came in, but got flat-footed. So, and then when the ball comes back across, I think, like what you said, Martinez could have potentially had a better position on sense. Look, I just think like the ball should have been dealt with offhand firstly. But again, like I said, if that was potentially another centre half there today, if that was Delict, I don't think, you know, as many Manchester United fans that jump on that bandwagon. It's just because initially the first ball could have potentially been dealt with by Maguire. That's not to suggest that it shouldn't have been dealt with, but as a unit today, I thought there was much more cohesion last week versus today. Don't get me wrong, I thought they were like good in regards to build-up patterns between the four of them, at times, particularly in the first half. But as a whole, we just again made mistakes, and again that's to our detriment. You know, there was no one towards the back post, obviously, and which you'll touch on for a second goal. And we need a left full, not a right-footed left back.
Really left-footed full-back, yeah.
You know, because as good. Well, I thought he was particularly good in the first half, and like they'll forget, but he put it up on an absolute sixpence for Diallo. You know, unfortunately, he couldn't finish at the time. But again, I just thought that at times he was getting overran by that young fella that he signed off Newcastle, wasn't it? Again, like that, because once you cut in, I think like you're against the wind, because you know, realistically he's right-footed, you know. So I just think, you know, positionally at times you are suspect, you know, and obviously the first and second goals lead you to believe that, because ultimately without them, and again, stroke of luck today, when we're walking away with another 3 points. So it's just unfortunate. It was an unfortunate day, but it is what it is. You know, we just have to grim and bear it and get on with it. I know the lads are saying potentially if it's a case where you keep Maguire fit, he's not going to play the bulk of the games this season across the board. But I'd personally keep him at the club. I think that, he's worth his salt from a professional standpoint. Realistically, we've had players come out and speak about the manager when they hadn't started in various positions. But, Maguire, he's been just the utmost professional. He just gets on with it. Gets on with it, and he'll take a slack today off every Manchester United fan that wants to go out and realistically berate him over it, but ultimately he'll just dust it off and again go on again. That's it. That's what you want to have a player versus complaining. Realistically, the ball shouldn't come across in the first place. Should he have dealt with it? Yes, correct. But that's it.
Yeah, both balls shouldn't have come across. Well put. Mr. Biggs, I've got something for you about Mr. Maguire, as you probably would have guessed. So I'm going to bring in Freddie, Bruno Fernandes himself, and just talk. If you can talk us through your thoughts on it, and then I'll come to you after that, Mr. Biggs. We've got a bit of a crackle somewhere. Does anyone know who it's from?
I heard that as well. Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from.
Perhaps when you're speaking, guys, we'll just drop it on mute if that's all right, lads. And then cheers.
Yeah.
Freddie.
I think first goal for me. Look, first of all, it's brilliant ball by João Pedro. You can't knock that. The first ball that goes in. Secondly, it was pissing it down all day. It was really bad conditions. So it's very skiddy. Difficult to defend. Makes it difficult for any defender. But I think Maguire has to put it out for a corner as it comes in. Like one of the boys mentioned, you've a bit of ball watching and not enough aware of your surroundings. You should have gone out to touch. I think last game against Fulham, Martinez had a similar one where he was in the centre of the goal and he tackled it just across past the post, and that was brilliant defending. And De Ligt did one in the second half where he just knocked out for a corner. Yeah. Maguire had to do that, so that was the first mistake. And then if you look at it, the gap between Martinez and Maguire when that ball goes in is just far too wide. Dalot was actually the line was completely broken. Dalot was trying to close down Pedro, so he was completely about 15 yards ahead of Martinez. And by the time it got to Mitoma, Welbeck pushes forward. Martinez doesn't know whether to deal with him or the other person behind him because Dalot's too high. And obviously Welbeck has a free tap in. So there's a few errors there, and it's a bad one to give away. But I think Maguire has to put it out, and I'm a big fan of his. But that for me, it would have been avoided if that had happened because the cross that first phase wasn't going to be closed down, just where the ball came in from. It could have been avoided there. Then Mitoma shouldn't have put the ball in, and Dalot shouldn't have been too high. So it's one that they'll sit down in the analysis room tomorrow morning, and I would like to think that next week you'll see a completely different result. But it's not our first offence. These guys haven't played with each other. As we mentioned earlier, we've got a makeshift left back, which I like Dalot. I think he should be our first team right back. But left back, tactically, he just doesn't know whether to go or to stay. And we're just playing with a very broken line. And with Brighton's attack, this is their best attack that they've ever had in the league in terms of personnel. You can't do that against them. They're a quality team, and there's no shock that they've scored. And second goal, I'm sure we'll get onto that, but that was just a calamity of errors. Personnel, tactics, everything. I think they just switched off.
I agree. So, Mr. Biggs, I think you're right there, Freddie. I think Freddie's right. As we've already established, he was wrong side. Maguire was for the initial cross, and he should have kind of just sweeped it out for the corner. The second one, though, as the ball comes back in, it's worth noting if Maguire had touched it, we would have been a goal down anyway, because there's absolutely no chance it would have been saved. So, what's your thoughts on Maguire's overall positioning? And do you think he would have scored an own goal as opposed to letting it through?
Yeah, I think I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? I think if he touched it, it could have done. We're not going to know that. I think he probably did the right thing by leaving it, but I think we shouldn't have allowed 3 players to be completely on the other side of the pitch and no one in and around them. I think it was a poor display throughout the defence, to be honest with you, and we could have avoided it altogether. Just want to address Adam in the comments. Obviously, a bit of a knob. I know I'm in another group chat. And yeah, he's obviously still ratted by Steve, who's not even in the group anymore, by a Spurs fan. So yeah. Anyway, nice to see you though, Adam. Good to have you with us. Anyway, yeah. Listen, it was just a real bad switch off at that point. I think we should have continued sort of being as progressive as possible, and we weren't at that point. And I think it was poor, regardless of Maguire, whether he was there, whether he touched it, whether or not. You had 3 players on the other hand side that shouldn't have happened in at all.
Yeah, look, I think it's a difficult one. I think, De Ligt was caught ball watching similarly for their second goal. If you look at it, the way they were able to ghost in at the post. But do you know something? For me, when a ball comes out like that, your keeper has to be brave. Your goalkeeper shouldn't be on his line. He should be 2 or 3 yards off it, ready to cut a ball like that out, because it's such a dangerous position to put a ball in. But a lot of keepers don't do that nowadays. There's only really Edison that does, maybe Alisson from Liverpool, but not many keepers do that. So it was quite disappointing. Moving on to our goal then. This Adam Stevenson, what's up with him? Is he like a broken record or something?
Nah, he's all right. He's just trying to take the piss, but he's a bit.
It's not working.
Record.
He needs to up his game. You need to up your game, Mr. Stevenson, if you're gonna try and take the piss. Up your game. Let's talk about Ahmad's goal, and I think Mark made a great point in. That's Mark Hanna, by the way. He made a really good point with regards to him losing his parents or his stepmom the night before. Should he have played? Shouldn't he have played? A lot of people say it's really good character that he did play, but he was off his game today. I think we could all see that. But he got his goal. It looked to me that it was going to sneak into the far corner. How did you assess Ahmad? We'll start with Freddie on this one. Mr. Biggs, will come to you next.
Just firstly, can you hear me okay? I've changed my...
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
There's some interference. Look, firstly, brilliant courage. I mean, I heard about Ahmad's situation after the game, and condolences to him and his family, and testament to playing the game, considering that was only yesterday, I believe. So, yeah, look, I think he had he took his goal very well. Firstly, I think it was going in. I'm glad it's been credited to him and not given as an own goal, because that would have been very harsh. I think our wide play wasn't great today. I think we played very narrow generally, and with our sort of overload of the midfield with Bruno up top and Mount too, we need our wide players to sort of stretch the defence and kind of hug the line and really split Brighton's defence. And I don't think they did that. I think it's their 2 centre-backs, Veltman and De Gea, were just getting absolutely everything. We couldn't get through them. And it was only really until Garnacho came on where he was kind of running behind and exploiting, splitting them apart. And he wasn't offside, effectively. The main thing, which I don't think's really been spoken about, is the amount of times Rashford, Ahmad, and others are just offside continuously is just exhausting. And I don't know whether that's something that could be trained, or if it's just, player intelligence in terms of when to time their run. But it's really hindering us because we get momentum and then it just completely gets drained out of us as soon as that flag goes up. So I think Ahmad, he was okay. I think generally the wingers should have done better. They need to stay wider more and not just cut in. I think Garnacho personally should start next week. I think he's having a much better impact in the game. I appreciate he's coming off the bench, but I think we should give him the opportunity to start against Liverpool on the right side, with Rashford on the left, given Liverpool's higher line. I think we need those runners, certainly if we're going to play Bruno up top again.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm glad you mentioned the offsides because it infuriates me as a player, as a defender. As I'm stepping up, I'm looking at these morons who were catching offside. I'm thinking, have you got eyes? What are you doing? You
And the
must have
Rashford
eyes.
it should have been 3-1, really.
Across the line.
Yeah.
He's looking across the line. He knows he's 3 yards offside. You can tell. I mean, it's just honestly, it just winds me up. Nathan, coming to you with regards to Ahmad, what did you think of his performance today? And would you? Harsh question, but would you start him against the Scousers on? I presume it's Sunday. It must be Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday 4:00.
Yeah.
Personally, I probably wouldn't have started him today, but I admire him for starting today, if you see what I mean. So there was the first chance that he had. I did put in the group chat. Garnacho would have buried that, with where Dallo, put that ball on the swivel, went beautifully into the box, and all it took was just a nice, neat finish to get the goal. But he got his goal. He had a decent game. It wasn't one of his best, but we've been dying for him to get some minutes and dying for him to get a run of form and run a game. So, credit where credit's due. He's played today amongst a family situation, and obviously all our thoughts and prayers go out to him for that. Absolutely. So, you have to admire that from him. A bit of courage, a bit of attitude about him. To say no, I am playing. I've been given an opportunity to play in the team, and I'm not going to give that up, sort of thing. So I'll give him some credit. He had a decent game, not one of his best, but we were saying last season, get him on. Where is he? Why is he not playing? And now he's getting a run of games. He deserves every chance he can get, and he got a goal. And hopefully, I personally would start him but I would probably remove Rashford next Sunday. Sorry, not because I think Rashford had a bad game. I think he was decent at spells, but you could see he was getting leggy. So I think Garnacho might have been the better option there. But yeah, I think I would start Diallo next week.
Okay, superb. And Mark, Hannah, just to you before we go to Sir Biggs, who's going to take you through the player ratings.
Yeah, similar to what the lads had said, really. Obviously, nothing but admiration, considering he was only at the losing a stepmother yesterday. Again, obviously, he would have had that conversation with the coach and staff. Is he in the right frame of mind, etc., which he obviously was. The only frustrating thing from aspects of both Rashford and Diallo, I felt they just didn't go at the fullbacks enough today. And it was like more or less at times when they were getting the ball in higher positions, they were looking to play it back through the middle. So that was, I don't know what was going on there, which is ironic because then you say to yourself, is that a tactical perspective? Because then when you see the likes of Garnacho coming on, then stretching the fullback, so it's a bit strange. However, like that, I think particularly after his goal today, all of us wanted him to get minutes, obviously, this season. I think he should start next week. As well as that, who do you drop? You know what I mean? Do you drop Rashford, continue with Rashford, or do you play Garnacho off to the left? And we referenced it in the pod last night. Do we try to play Rashford through the middle, try to stretch Liverpool a bit? Like, I don't think, based off the fact today that Mason Mount was pulled at half time, that he's gonna play this same way tactically next week versus Liverpool, meaning have the two of them playing as a false nine, basically, or one in behind, as he did today with Mount and again last week against Fulham. So it'd be interesting to see what he potentially does next week, based on obviously today's game.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. For me, I'd go 3 at the back and 2 up top against the Scousers. I think that's our best option of beating them. But unfortunately, we haven't got Højlund up there, so you would have to consider Rashford and Xerxes potentially. But you've got to get delivery. We didn't deliver enough to Xerxes when he came on. He was wandering in between a 10 and a 9. It wasn't working for him. So great. Now, well, that's excellent. We're going to hand over to Mark. No, thank you, guys. And you banned Adam, have you?
Yeah, just a bit of a timeout for Adam and PJ, the small children. Anyway, let's do the player ratings. Right. So, I thought you were going to give me the first one, but I'll give everyone else the first one. That's fine. We're going to rush through these a little bit. Want to do a bit of a quick fire. Give me 30 seconds for each one, and we'll do it relatively fast. All right. So, first of all, Nano, and I'll come to you first, Nathan.
Yeah, decent game. Didn't have much to do. He wasn't really much to blame for the 2 goals. it was just defensive errors in front of him, really. I'd probably go for a 6, or actually, no, I'll go for a 5 because it's average game, didn't have much to do. So a 5 out of 10 for me.
I agree with you there. I would have said a 5. I think
here.
he was relatively solid. I think he didn't really have too much to do. I thought his distribution was quite good, but I think I agree with Stu earlier. I think he could have done more for that second goal. So for that, 5 for me. Stu, Diogo Dalot.
I guess a 6. I thought he played Minte pretty well, but his overall contribution I didn't think was brilliant today, so he gets a 6 from me.
How good was that cross first half with his left peg?
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
he with the 6, but that cross was super.
I mean, that was mint, and I can't believe Dalot didn't scoop and head it because we would have been 1-up then. There's no way because the pace was on the ball. He only had to direct it. It would have been a great goal. But yeah, so I'll give him that. But then I think he peaked a bit too early for me, Freddie. Peaked a bit too early. He gets a 6.
Happens to the best of us.
Particularly you, Stu, is what he means.
You speak for yourself.
Particularly you, Stu, is what he means. Right, moving on then. Let's go to Maguire. I'll give that to you then, Mark.
Oh, just based on the fact that, again, I know I'm being over cynical, but with the goal and that, look, and as well as that, it wasn't like he was playing out of skin, considering he got pulled as well. You'd have to say again a 5. I don't think anyone had an absolutely disastrous game today, but nobody stood out from a Manchester United perspective. So,
yeah, I'd agree.
Yep, Martinez, Freddie.
Yeah, I'd probably mirror that. The 5. I think not much difference between him and Maguire. I think he was quite too front-footed at times, Martinez, and he did it against Fulham as well, where there was that 2-on-1, and actually Maguire did very well against the poor Andreas Pereira pass last week. But he's starting to do a bit of a Casemiro, diving in too quickly, and then if he doesn't get it, they just overload the defenders. But it happened once or twice. But he was good playing out from the back today. But yeah, as Mark
wasn't right though, was he today? Right. He wasn't right, was he?
No, not great.
No, I'll give you that. No. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Nathan, let's move on to Mazuri. Is it Mazrui? I always get this wrong. I think I said it right one week. Mazraoui.
You need to watch that. Have you seen the Sky Sports thing where they announce
Bruno Fernandes?
Fernandes. Well, it is. It is.
Yeah, we all say it wrong, don't we?
Well, if you're Argentinian, it is. It's not Ez. It's definitely Esh or Eth.
Or Portuguese? Do you mean?
No, the Spanish speaking Argentina. It's I don't think it's Fernandez. It's Fernand or Esh. I just think
Fernandez.
Anyway.
Freddie will know. He's his double, isn't he?
He knows.
Doppelganger.
Yeah. Anyway, over to you, Nathan. Sorry, mate.
No, you're right. I thought we had quite a good game. In the early stages, he looked right up for it. Looked really good. I'd probably go for a 7, just purely because he looked up for it. He looked like he wanted to. He wanted to continue his good play from the last game. So I think probably a 7's fair. He looked like he wanted to get into challenges and stop the ball. So, yeah, 7 for me.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen actually so far. I don't think he's fully 100% fit actually, and he really is giving us a lot going forward and defensively. So it's really good so far, and hopefully he continues on in the same manner. Right, moving on to the midfield then. Stu, over to you to Casemiro, please, mate. 6, and no other words. When he means it, just a 6. Anyway, moving over to Minu, then over to you, Mark.
Again, probably a 6. It's going to be around about 6. I didn't think he had a great game today, and ironically, considering they had Gilmore and Milner debased, I thought at times they played very well through both Manu and Casemiro, which is ironic. But look, we were just not at the races, and Manu was definitely not at the races today. However, he's an absolute shining light. So,
yeah, good points, well made. Over to you then, Freddie, for Mount.
Give him a 7. I think again, similar to last week. I think his off the ball, out of possession plays superb, and that's what we brought him in for. And you do notice when he leaves the pitch what he brings, and yeah, we lose a bit of.
He works so hard, doesn't he? He's there
did
like
well,
a
didn't he?
bulldog, isn't he? He's really in your face,
well,
chasing it down. Yeah,
We
I
just
do
need-
see
we
that
just
in
need
him.
Yeah, we need him to maintain his fitness, and I think they've been very careful with him just after last season. Hence why
Yep.
he is coming off. It's nothing to do with Ten Hag's tactically inept. As soon as he takes Mount off, everything falls apart. I think if he kept him on and he regresses and gets another injury, people would be moaning about that as well. So I think he's being very careful with him. I think we are going to see more of him this season. I'd like to see him do a little bit better with the ball, creativity wise, but I'm sure that'll come.
Me too.
Time,
Well,
so, yeah,
I think this is the thing. Actually, we kind of brought him in for that, didn't we? Which we haven't seen. I know that he's been very injured, but I think what we have seen is that sort of bulldog approach in the middle, as I said, and he really is sort of pressing high. He's working really, really hard, and I think that's very, very clear. So hopefully we can see more of that. And I think you're right.
Yeah, the big question mark for me is if we do, and touch wood we do, bring in Ugarte next week, I'm not sure what that does for Mount, because then we've got Ugarte, Casemiro, Mount, presumably Bruno.
I'm not sure what it does for Casemiro. I'm not sure what it does for Casemiro, to be honest. I really feel like it's going to be the similar sort of thing. You have Ugarte as the kind of destroyer in there. Manu's still in there, probably Mount in there as well. And until Højlund comes back, you're going to have more Mount and Bruno playing in that kind of false nine, maybe on the right wing, is what I see. I don't think that changed. I think Casemiro is the one that's in a bit of danger, to be honest.
Yeah, Casemiro comes out for Ugarte. There's no two ways about it. But I think Mark's right. I think we've got to go out and we've got to get ourselves a left-footed left back as quickly as we can. We need two signings, Ugarte, and if you want Ugarte and a left fullback. Sorry, Mark.
Do you know what I was kind of concerned about today, though, lads? Like, just in regards to Mason Mount, and obviously, I think obviously it's a tactical ploy in the sense of I think that he is nearly more or less doing work that Bruno Fernandes is expected to do. Don't get me wrong, Bruno's always going to drop deep and search to the ball. However, I think that obviously his pressing has been less so over the past 2 weeks. Not to suggest that it hasn't been there, it obviously has, but I think that's ultimately why he's in the squad, particularly at the moment with the injuries. So in other words, we know that Bruno's going to drop deep, but I just hope he's not injured based on the fact that he did come off at half time. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
They haven't said. I haven't seen a reason behind it.
So obviously everyone was surprised because he was again pressing very well. Albeit he didn't have much of the ball. When he did have the ball, wasn't like he made like ridiculous mistakes, etc. Or his passing was off. And the game I was watching, obviously his passing didn't seem to be off to me. So I was surprised that he was whipped at half time versus either the wingers. So we're just slightly curious in regard to that.
Yeah, they haven't said he had problems. Is all that Ten Hag said, wasn't it, Mark?
Nothing said anyway, I don't think. Well, hopefully, obviously, that's the case going into next week because we need people fit realistically, don't we? Not that we're in ravaged with injuries at the moment, but are more dynamic and attacking players seem to be either not fit, the likes of Zierski, or you have people out and absentees, the likes of Højlund. So we need players going forward because we're not scoring enough goals. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Right, let's move on then for the last three. We'll do Xerxes as well. Obviously played quite a bit of the game and was lots to talk about, I think, with him. Not for the ratings, obviously, but, he had a lot to do with it today. Right, so Bruno Fernandes. Freddie, we'll come to you.
Tricky score, this one, Freddie. I'm glad you got that one.
I'm going to give him a 5.
Yeah, he's kippered you there. I agree.
Yeah, I don't really remember much of what he was doing, but he's being played out of position. I think he had a few chances against Fulham last week. He didn't put them away for whatever reason. He didn't have those today. I think, like I mentioned earlier, our wide players kind of hindered him because they weren't stretching the defence, and he had to deal with a very good Veltman and I think it's De Gea on the day. So got a bit of sympathy. Off the ball, he looked good, but it wasn't his day with the ball. But equally, no one, the midfield and the attackers weren't creating anything. So I'll give him a 5, but a sympathetic 5. That is.
I think that's fair. I think
good score.
Fair assessment.
Good score.
Right.
One thing, sorry, Mark, if I couldn't cross you, because I was absolutely baffled. Like, one thing that, again, being cynical, I suppose, when he come off, as soon as like his number went up and the cameras were on him, he was smiling as if to say, "Why the fuck am I getting dragged off here?" Like, you know, and did anyone else notice that, or am I just being again fickle? Because I was like, you know, that's where you like. I love Bruno Fernandes. He's the best player at the club, from my opinion. But you just want him to like be less childish at times, particularly in them circumstances. Didn't have a great game, number one, you know. And
Mark, we spoke about this the other day actually, and I don't think it is childish. I think it gets labelled childish a lot. I think if you look 20 years ago when Roy Keane was doing the same thing, he was in everyone's faces, he was screaming, he was moaning, but because we were winning every fucking thing, it wasn't called childish. I get where you're coming from, but I don't think it is. I think he's just passionate. I think he likes to get stuck in. I think he likes to have a go. It's his job to do so as a captain. And I just think it's probably the face that he pulls that makes him look like he's having a bit of a fucking pop. Do you know what I mean? But I don't believe it's that bad. But anyway,
he's shocked to see his number because he's never comes off.
Well, here, that's it. Maybe he was more surprised that his number was actually on the board, considering the majority of games he plays every minute, whether we're winning or losing or, you know, ravaged with injuries. He's always there. So, yeah, you have a good point. You just don't want to see it, don't you? Know?
Of course. Yeah. And you know what? I think, you know, for the last couple of seasons now, we've criticised Ten Hag for not making those bold changes. Bruno probably did need to come off, and he's just going to have to lump it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for that. He's disappointed. I get it. He hasn't ever fucking come off the pitch before. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those. But ultimately, he signed a new contract. He knows what it means. He knows Man United. It's not a problem. It's just the way that his face always seems to react on this occasion. Right, very quickly then. Nathan, I'm going to give you Rashford. Stu, I'm going to give you Xerxes, and Mark, I'm going to give you Ahmad, and we'll just do it very quickly and then we'll wrap up. All right, you first, Nathan.
Yeah, I thought Rashford had good moments. You know, it was unlucky. He strayed offside for that sort of clever finish with his back heel. I would probably give him 5.5. I'm stretched between a 5 or a 6. I didn't think it was his best game, but I definitely don't think it's one of his worst. He definitely had good flashes, good moments that he was making runs, and yeah, he looked like the player that we know a little bit, not as much as we know, but he was getting there. So yeah, I think I'm going to go 5.5.
Stu?
Xerxes, I'll give a 6. So I thought he did okay when he came on. I think he was definitely trying to get into the game, but I think ultimately he's just not quite where we need him to be. But I expected that anyway. So I'll give him a 6. I thought he did all right.
Yeah, and hopefully, I hope it was a thriller. It was a freak incident, that second goal. I mean, it's good that he's doing those darts, you know, across the 6-yard box. So yeah, hopefully that continues. We need that. We've been missing that. But yeah, just unlucky, mate. On the day, he's nicked a goal off Garnacho and probably which could have won.
Yeah, you couldn't have written it really. What a freak situation, really. Yeah, over to you, Mark, for Ahmad, please, buddy, and then we'll wrap up.
Grand, yeah, I'd give him a 7 based on the fact obviously he got his goal today. As a whole, I thought he didn't have a great game. However, as well as that, no one could be judging Jordy based on the fact he's gone through much more personal things than we have in the last 24 hours. So, yeah, based on that, I'd give him a 7. And again, I hope he retains position next week against Liverpool, because I just think the more time that the man is given, the more we're going to see from him. So yeah, a 7.
Yeah, fair points. Guys, really appreciate all your time tonight. I know it's getting late, so thank you very, very much. Mark, I've really enjoyed having you on, mate. I'd love to get you on again on a review. Very, very good points. Very analytical, and I love it. Everyone else, of course, as always, really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody in the comments. We had loads in tonight. Really enjoyed the most comments. And really enjoyed the viewership, of course. So get liking, get subscribing. Obviously, big game next week. Liverpool coming next weekend on Sunday, as we mentioned earlier. Big one. And we'll be back for that as well. Obviously, a preview, probably talk of the league next week and a few other bits and pieces. Until then, we will see you next time.